On this episode of Overtime Arcade, we're going to do something we've never done before. Yeah, I know, working on the new setup down here. It's not quite done yet, but I think we're making some good progress. I really enjoy this new space. Anyway, you know I get most of my electronic components from Peter at arcadepartsandrepair.com, from cap kits to flybacks, virtually all of my electronic components that I use to fix all of these games, repair and restore all of these great arcade machines come from Peter at arcadepartsandrepair.com. And recently I've been working with Peter. Now, he's been working to get several new batches of reproduction flybacks made. He's working with a bunch of factories overseas, both for new and improved versions of existing reproduction flybacks and also some flybacks that I don't think have ever been reproduced before. Anyway, he recently reached out to myself and also Mike from Mike's Amateur Arcade Monitor Repair, asking us if we'd be willing to help out test some of these new flybacks. He needs some help sort of baseline testing existing working, original OEM working flybacks and comparing that and also testing, reproduction samples. So I said, hey, I'd be thrilled. I'd be happy to work with you. Two in particular he was looking for help with were the G07 FBO, so the 13-inch version of the very popular Electrohome G07 monitor, and also the notorious, at least on my channel, the Sharp XM 2001N monitor that I've got two of them in my Nintendo PlayChoice 10 cabinet. I've had lots of problems with that in the past. So anyway, in this episode, we're going to do a couple different things. So we're going to start by doing some baseline testing of the original flybacks, again, from the G07 FBO and also the XM 2001N. This is going to require 24 hours of testing and doing, checking intervals in between. We're going to be checking a bunch of different voltages. We're also going to be measuring the temperature of a couple different components, including the flyback. And to do the temperature readings, I'm actually going to be using a brand new tool to me, a really cool, digital thermal imaging camera. So we're going to unbox that and get that all set up. And then we'll test out some reproduction flybacks. And basically what Peter's trying to do is, compare the readings, the output voltages and the temperatures between the original OEM flyback should be roughly the same as the new ones, right? So we'll start by testing my working original OEM flybacks, and we'll do the same battery of tests for the reproduction samples, and hopefully keep your fingers crossed and everything works well, because we need these flybacks for these machines. And Peter is an absolute saint to be doing all of this work, investing all of this time and money and energy to bring us the parts that we need. So if that sounds like fun, why don't we get started? Let's go!
Overtime!
All right, here's the setup I got going on, and yeah, I'm inside the house for a couple of reasons. First of all, it is 100 degrees outside in the garage today, and I don't want to be out there, and I don't think the monitor really wants to be running for 24 hours out there, so we're inside in the climate control, which is nice, and here's Teddy coming by for a cameo. The other reason that we're inside the house is we're going to be running this thing for 24 hours, and I'm not going to be watching it like a hawk the entire time. So I've got it inside so that it's easier for me to keep an eye on it. And we are right below a smoke detector. So if something goes wrong, even in the middle of the night, I'll get a warning that something's wrong. And plus my wife took the kids out of town for a couple of days. So I've got the run of the place to myself. So the monitor is plugged into my homemade compact portable isolation transformer power supply. We've got that plugged in right there. We've got my CraftyMech TPG test pattern generator. Now, some people have modded theirs so that they can plug it in and not just run it off of batteries. But I wasn't smart enough to do that, so we'll probably have to change the 9-volt battery a couple of times, I'm thinking. And yeah, here's the back of the 13-inch G07 FBO with the original OEM flyback right there. So I think we're all plugged in and ready to go. So if I come back around and we'll turn on the power supply right here. I hear the high voltage going, and we'll turn on the TPG and we'll take a look at the screen. And yeah, we got some geometry. It's off a little bit, and I got a degauss issue in the corner, but it's fine for testing. And I actually tried to remove that degauss. It doesn't show up in the game, so I don't know what's going on there. So we're gonna let this run for an hour. So let me say this: Alexa, set an alarm for 1 hour. There we go. And yeah, we're gonna let this warm up, running for an hour. Here is a little spreadsheet that I made of all of the measurements that Peter wants me to take. So we'll take a look right here. There's a bunch of voltages. The B plus voltage will measure off of the big white ceramic resistor. Then G1, GK, and G2 are all on the back of the neck board here. That's why I've got the neck board sort of cardboard protector. Removed the 180 volt line. There's actually a test point T2 right in there. That's a little bit dicey to get to, but we'll be fine. And then this 12 volt line really is supposed to be measured at the cathode of D508, which is right here. Now that's actually right underneath the neck. You can't even see it with the shadow underneath the yoke. And I really don't want to be reaching in there while the monitor is running, but I looked at the schematics, and the cathode side of diode D508, goes up this trace and then over this jumper and then back down this trace to this jumper over here, W101, which is right next to the video input headers. So that's a lot more accessible. So that's where I'm going to be measuring that. And let's see what else. We need to measure the anode voltage directly from underneath the anode cup. And so for that, we're going to use our HV probe because that is very high voltage and not something we can do with the multimeter directly. But the HV probe plugs into the multimeter, and then we can jam the business end of the HV probe directly underneath the anode, and that should be good. And then you notice, well, we got down here, we want to check the full adjustability of all pots. I think I'll probably just do that at 24 hours, and then I'll compare it to the, I'm going to take all the measurements for the reproduction, FBO. Flyback, again, we'll be taking these measurements after 1 hour of operation, 4 hours, 8 hours, and 24. And the last couple of measurements you see up here at the top are actually temperatures. So Peter wants me to check the temperature of the flyback right there, the hot, which is mounted, it's a bottle cap transistor mounted there, and the VR, another bottle cap transistor mounted there. And Teddy's chewing on a bone now, making a ton of noise. I don't want to hold like a glass thermometer up against those things, so we're actually going to be using a brand new tool. So let me get the tripod set up and we'll do a little bit of an unboxing and setup. Okay, this is the Topdon TC004 handheld thermal imaging camera, and this is what we're going to use to measure the temperature of the flyback, the hot, and the voltage regulator. I've kind of wanted to get one of these for a while. I've got a much sort of cheaper thing that I got as a gift. This is a much more sort of higher end tool, not necessarily super high end professional, but definitely very high prosumer type of tool. And basically we kind of get to point and shoot, direct it at a part, and it'll read remotely from a distance what the temperature is. So this is going to come really handy for testing these flybacks. The other thing that I'm very interested in using this for in the future is for troubleshooting PCBs. Often when there's a problem with a circuit board, some component has sort of shorted internally, and one of the signs of that is it'll get really hot. So a chip could have a problem, something shorted in the chip, and the chip starts getting really, really hot. And you can sort of go one at a time with your finger and kind of touch each chip and sort of feel if there's any that are super hot, but it's kind of easier to just point this at a board all at once, and it has this thermal imaging, and it'll tell us if any of those chips are hot, but I don't have that issue right now, so I figured this was a good opportunity to bust this open and use it for this project. Now I do want to say that I received this for free for review purposes. I didn't ask for it. They reached out to me. I've done this before with the digital microscope. So they reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to try this out? And I said, sure. And I knew it would come in handy at some point. So today is the day. So let's see what we got going on here. We've got a 256 by 192 high-res IR camera. So that's not high-res for optical cameras, but maybe it is for IR. 2.8-inch display screen. It'll go up to 662 Fahrenheit, which is 350 Celsius for you non-Americans out there, which should be, I think, good. Obviously, my soldering iron gets hotter than that, but I don't expect the flyback to. We can apparently connect this to a PC and look at the images or analyze them there, and we can record. I probably won't need to do that. I guess it has, wow, 16 gigs of onboard storage, which is great. Made in China, let's see if there's anything else on the box interesting. No, so let's go ahead and pop this open, slice the plastic. Okay. Yeah, I got this, I don't know, a month or so ago, and I've been waiting for an opportunity to do this, to use this. I thought I would maybe need it to, you know, I've got a Defender board set. I can't remember if I bought it, tested, or working, and that's got a lot of, you know, often a lot of RAM issues, so I was going to use it for that, but this opportunity popped up sooner. So right off the bat, I guess this is like a, let's see, a little nylon almost holster. Okay, that's cool. Let's see, product certificate, calibration certificate, a little robust owner's manual right here. We'll take a look at that in a second. We have a 16 gig, I'm not familiar with that brand, Kioxia Xeria SD card. Okay. This maybe is a AC adapter. Come on. What's that? European plug, US, UK, and, oh no, that's UK. Wait. So yeah, these are international ones. I've used these before. Maybe this is not. It's like this UK, this is Europe, and this is somewhere else. I don't know. I can't imagine I'll be traveling with this. We'll be using our US plug. Teddy is very interested in what I'm doing right now. I guess it plugs into this, so let's see. Okay. Is that secure all the way? There we go. That was a much nicer click. What else is in here? We've got some, I'll twist it up with a twist tie. This is a USB-A to USB-C cable. And here is the actual device here. Not bad. This is a really nice, like, foam cutout box for it. All right, so here's the device. Not a hair dryer. Let's see what goes in here. That's the the USB and the SD card port. A rubber cover for it. Feels kind of well made in my hand. There's our trigger. Got some controls. And yeah, TC004. So I'm going to take a second and go through this user manual, and then I'll come back and we'll test it out a little bit. Okay, I spent a couple minutes with the manual, and there's really not much to it. It's in a bunch of different languages, and I think most of it is really explaining how to use it with your computer, which I probably won't be doing much of. And I think it's because this is really kind of easy to use and self-explanatory, and I like that. You know, if you really need a ton of instructions on how to do something, it's probably designed wrong. So we got the controls here. Again, I'll just turn this on. I already went in, and you know, it initially has you, choose your language and set the date and everything. And I went ahead and did that. If we go into the menu, let's see here. You kind of see it. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Hopefully the camera's picking this up. So let's see. We can change the sensitivity and whatever, right? Let's see. And we can pick a different scale, right? Like we expect this to go super high, like all the way up to 600. We can sort of change that, but we'll be operating mostly at room temperature here. We have alerts, different photo settings. We can change the unit, and you better believe I already went in there and changed it to Fahrenheit and feet, freedom units, and let's see, other system settings. We can reset it. We can format the SD card, set the language and time and all that, but I don't think we really need to do much of that. The other thing is we can sort of go in here and change turn on like a hot spot and cold spot. I don't want to do that for these purposes. Maybe if I was, working with a board, and looking for hot ones, I would let it do that. I only have the center sort of spot turned on. So as I move the thermal imager around, we'll get sort of different temperature readings. And so like if I put my hand in here, you can immediately see, it's getting hotter, right? So 85, whatever, and then I move over to the table and it's back to, 67, right? Sort of the ambient temperature. And even if I remove my hand, you can sort of see where my fingers were a moment ago. So this works, really great. And here, with lower temperatures, here's my soda can. And we can take an image of this and see that says, 40, what does that say? 52, 49, right? So it gets much darker. So I think this will work out great. So yeah, not much to it. Works really, really easy. So I'm gonna plug this in, let it charge up all the way. I think we're down to 79% battery. It was pretty, that was pretty good coming right out of the box. So yeah, I'll get this charged. We'll give the monitor an hour to power up, and then we'll take our first set of measurements. Okay, the 1 hour timer just went off, so let's come over here and take our first set of measurements. I think I'm going to start with the temperature measurements, so we'll turn on our thermal imager. Here we go, TC view. See more than the human eye can. Okay, and system is initializing. We'll give that a minute. And remember, we're going to take the temperature of the flyback, the hot, and the voltage regulator. So I think we're ready to go here, and we come in here, and okay. Oh, I need to change the measurements again. Turn off the hot spot, turn off the cold spot. So we just have the center spot. And lining it up, and hopefully, it's kind of weird to do this with two hands. I'm aiming at the hottest point on the flyback, and let's call that 110 degrees. All right, so I'm going to write that down. Again, weird to do this with two hands. 110 degrees Fahrenheit for the flyback. Then we'll move some stuff out of the way here that's in my way. And the hot is that bottle cap transistor right there. So again, we'll come in with this thermal imager. Emit, where am I looking? Get it lined up. The hot's actually kind of cool. All right, that looks like, oh, you can't even see. Just trying to line this up right. All right, it says 83 degrees. So we'll write that down for the hot. Okay. Sorry for getting seasick. And the voltage regulator is over here. And lining that up. Call that 80 degrees. Okay. So, okay. And now let's get set up on a tripod. And we'll take some voltage measurements. Okay, I've got this nice new tripod that is a lot nicer than my old one, but I'm still getting used to exactly how to set it up. Especially that it doesn't have the same kind of quick release that my old one did. So, okay, cool. So let's set up for testing these voltages. I've got my multimeter turned on and set to DC volts. We will attach the ground to the frame of the chassis. Actually, I'll double check that I have good continuity. There we go, so we got a good ground. And we'll start with the B plus voltage, which is measured on the white wire of that large ceramic resistor. And we are, let's call that 119 volts DC. I think it's supposed to be 120, so 119 is fine. And then the G1, GK, and G2 are all on the neck board. So we'll come in here with the G1. G1 is nothing. All right, so I'm not really sure what I should be getting right here. For DC on G1, I have essentially nothing. And on AC, I have like 0.025 VAC. So I'm going to write that down, 0.025 VAC. We'll switch back to DC volts. GK is, oops, it moves around. So let's call this around 150. All right. That's DC. And our G2 voltage right here is, whoops, let's call that 425. That moves around too. Let's call that 435. Okay. 435 volts. All right. The 12 volt line is going to be a little bit, or the 180 volt line is at T2, and I kind of want to reach in here and grab that T2. Sorry if I'm in the way. This is, need to do that for safety. So that's 181. All right, we'll write that down. 181 volts. So I'm supposed to measure the 12 volt line at the cathode of D508, but instead we're going to grab it from that jumper, just to be safe. Sorry, the gimbal really doesn't like the angle that we're at right here. So we're reaching in here, and that is 12.5. Okay. Oh, 12.5 volts. And the last thing we're going to measure here, we'll turn off the multimeter, is, and we'll take off the ground, anode voltage with the HV probe. And I don't want to mess with the anode cup and whatever while the monitor's on, because there's a risk that that anode cup could pop off and we get an arc, and all bad things can happen. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the monitor. And yep, the monitor is off, and we've got our HV probe here. So this is a little bit interesting. I can't remember if I've ever shown this or used this on the channel before. We're going to take our multimeter and we're going to disconnect the regular probes and drop those out of the way. And then this, the HV probe has these banana plugs. This one is ground and the other one is our actual voltage reading. So we're going to plug that in here. All right, and then we'll put that right here. Hopefully it'll be in frame so you can see it. And then the HV probe also has this other attachment, which is to ground it. So we'll ground it to the frame. And basically what we need to do is connect the probe end and make sure it's on nice and tight underneath the anode cup and contact the actual rabbit ears that are in there. So we're coming in like this. All right, and I think we should be good. So we'll turn on our multimeter to DC volts, and we will turn on the power. All right, and there's a multiplier here, and I think it's 1000x, so I think that's actually 20,000 volts. So we'll give it a second to sort of stabilize. Okay, I gave it a minute or two, and it does change sort of as there's more stuff filling the screen, the voltage seems to drop a little bit. And I've got the falling blocks pattern from the TPG. And then when it resets that image and blanks out again, jumps up to just over 20. So, and again, I think the multiplier works here where that's actually thousands of volts. Like that's what the HV probe does, is sort of divides it by 1,000. So I'm going to put down 20 kV. So cool. I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to let this run for another 3 hours, and then we'll take our 4 hour, easy Teddy, 4 hour, 8 hour, and 24. I'm going to do the 4 and 8 hour measurements myself. I'm pointing at the spreadsheet, can't even see. So I'll take those next measurements myself. Then we'll come back and we'll do the measurement after 24 hours of operation, and we should be good to go. So let me go and do that. Okay, we've been running solid for 24 hours now, and I had to replace the battery, the 9-volt battery in the TPG at around the 8 hour mark. I noticed it actually went to this, and it's the new battery is dying too, because this is kind of what happens when the TPG battery is dying, it kind of reboots and comes back to the title screen. And if you try to change it, you can go to the checkerboard pattern, but you can't get past it, right? So, but that's fine. I'll put a new battery, a fresh battery in the TPG before I use it again. But the first battery, which was already probably half used, lasted about 8 hours, and this next one took it the next 16. So we can come over here with the tripod and take our final set of measurements. Again, we'll start with the temperature readings. Again, we'll come in with this brand new Topdon TC004 thermal imaging camera, and we're getting about 117 on the flyback, so I'll write that down, 117. And then on the side with the hot, hold it with two hands to be nice and steady. Getting about 91 over there. Okay. And the voltage regulator over here on this side is a bit cooler. Let's say that's about 87. Okay. So looking at those temperatures, relatively stable. They've gone up, maybe a couple degrees, but that's to be expected running this long. So we can turn off the thermal imaging camera and grab the multimeter. Set it to DC volts. I mean, you see me do this a couple times. And we'll ground it to the frame. Come over here and grab our B+. And that's still right around 119. So put that down here. 119 volts. And the GK voltage on the neck, 140. Ooh, that's low. That could be the, what's being displayed is static, a static image now. Okay, and the G2 voltage right here, 430. Okay. And the 180 volt line from T2 down here. Try not to touch the neck board. That's 179, okay. And the 12 volt line from this jumper over by the video headers. And that's about 12.5 again. Actually 12.36. And lastly, we have the anode voltage. So we'll get set up for that again. Taking our HV probe, plugging it into the multimeter. I'm trying to do this quickly because I might be picking up a game today. Totally unexpected. So, okay. DC volts, powering off the monitor. And I'm gonna let it wind down a little bit because a couple times I've turned it off and then really immediately stuck the HV probe in and I hear some cracking, which I want to avoid. So give it another second or two and we will pop it in. All right, powering back up. And we are right around 20 again, so 20 kV. So cool. Monitor is off and multimeter is off. So I think we're good with these measurements. So I've got the 24 hours of readings. The only thing different about the 24 hours was it was a static image while the other ones were moving images. I think that's fine. I'm gonna go do the same exact thing for the Sharp XM2001N. First with the OEM flyback, then we're gonna put in the Reproduction flyback, test both of those for a full 24 hours, and then I think Peter's going to send me a sample of the Reproduction G07 FBO flyback. We'll stick that into this monitor, do all the same. I'm not going to subject you to every single one of those readings, but you know, it's all going to be about the same. So I'll show you if anything interesting comes up, and I'll show you at least once with the Sharp monitor, and I'll show you, installing the flyback on both of them. So, but so far so good. All right, people, here is one of my Sharp XM 2001N monitors from my Nintendo PlayChoice 10, and this is the one that still has the original flyback. I haven't adjusted the picture in the camera, so it looks better in person than it does here. Hooked up to the TPG with my Nintendo cables, and I had to power this thing, build a new one of my compact portable isolation transformer power supplies. This one has a 100 volt transformer in there because, of course, Nintendo monitors like these Sharps and the Sanyos use 100 volts because they're really Japanese monitors instead of 120 volts like most other monitors. It's been 24 hours. This thing has been running 24 hours with the original flyback, and it's time for us to make our final measurement. So we'll come over here. There we go, the gimbal wants to cooperate. Not really. You can see on the flyback here, we've already done the 1 hour, 4 hour, and 8 hour measurements. So all we need to do here is the 24-hour measurement. So let's start with the temperature readings. And again, we're powering up our new thermal imaging camera, Topdon TC004. We'll just go in, and I had it power down all the way, so it kind of loses some of the little settings that I have. And we'll turn off the hot spot and cold spot and just use the aim point. So we'll come back here, and our flyback is 139. What we're getting? Yep. And that tracks with what we were seeing before, 139 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the hot is over here. Maybe I can help show you that bottle cap transistor right there. So let's see, got about, can't even see. Trying to hold this and hold the camera. I think 94.9. All right, we'll call that 95 degrees. So I'll write that down. Again, that tracks with what we've been seeing before. And the VR is going to be really tricky to see. It is a little vertical IC. It's that little black thing right there, just past that pot. That looks like 110, 112, 113. Let's call it 113. And again, that's right what we've been seeing. So we'll turn this off for now. There we go, shut down. And we will take some voltage readings. First being the B+, of course. And yeah, I know this gets repetitive. I have to do this every several hours. It's been 16 hours since the last measurement. So B+ comes from test point 91 right here. And we're at 109.9. Should be 110, so that's great, 109.9 volts. And G1 on the neck is nothing. And GK, maybe 130. Let's actually go on to a static image because I know this GK will change as the image is changing. So GK is right here, 131 even. Okay. And G2 also on the neck board, right there. 529.2, same as last time. 529.2 volts. And lastly is the anode. So we'll actually power down the machine because I want to set it up again while we've got the power off. I don't want to be messing with the anode cup while, you know, 22,000, 23,000, 24,000 volts is coursing through this thing. So, and we'll bust out the HV probe, get it all set up, plugged into the multimeter. Okay, we're plugged into the multimeter. I'll ground it to the frame, slide the anode in, and I can even hear it discharge a little bit. And we'll turn on our multimeter and turn on our monitor. Kind of hold it in there good. Should be on DC volts. Come on. All right, 220, 22.22. 22.22. There we go. We can turn the whole thing off and record that. All right. 22.22 kilovolts. Because the way this, like I think I mentioned, the way this Fluke model 80K-40, it kind of has like it divides by 1,000. So if you see 1 volt on the multimeter, that really means 1,000 volts. So 22 volts means 22,000 volts. Now what's interesting is I think that anode voltage is a little bit low. So it's supposed to be 24,000 volts plus or minus 1.5 thousand. So the fact that this is only 22.22, call it 22 and a quarter, means it's a quarter of a kilovolt. So you know, 250 volts lower than the bottom range of the spec. So I don't know if this flyback is starting to go. You know, we also need to you know, check the pots, especially the you know, brightness. There's a screen pot on the flyback. There's a brightness pot on one of the control boards and a sub bright pot. You know, I'm not getting the brightness out of this monitor that I really want, even with all 3 of those pots maxed. So maybe this flyback, this OEM flyback, you know, is starting to go. I don't know. Like I said, the anode voltage is a bit low. It's a bit out of spec. So it could be a sign of a tired flyback. So anyway, I think that's good. So we've completed the 24-hour testing of the original OEM flyback. And so here is the brand new testing sample from Peter. F1408CE is the name of this flyback. This is a testing sample from June of 2024. It is July of 2024 right now when I'm testing this. So I guess it was maybe manufactured on May 29th. So here it is in all its glory. So what I'll do now is, here we go. I will discharge this monitor. Well, I'll undo all the wiring, discharge the monitor. I will remove the old flyback. I'll install the new one, and then we'll be ready for the series of 24-hour tests of the new flyback. So let me go and install this. I'll show you what it looks like plugged in, and then we'll be ready for that final battery of tests for the Sharp XM 2001N Nintendo monitor. Okay, I've got the new sample reproduction flyback installed. Again, this is from Peter at arcadepartsandrepair.com. It's installed on the board. Everything went okay, installing it on the chassis. The flyback is a little bit physically smaller, if you can see, than the original. It's got black knobs instead of white knobs. I don't have the HV cage installed. It's not a heat sink. It's just sort of to protect, you know, people from bumping into the HV while the game is running. I don't think that's going to be a problem. It's going to help me sort of access and look at things a little bit better. I only had to bend the pins a little bit to get them to line up into the holes in the chassis. I did have to clip off the little plastic retaining clips because those weren't lined up correctly. The other thing that's a little bit different is the color of the wires is reversed. So on the original In addition to the anode wire, we've got these 2 wires coming out of the flyback, a thin red one from below that goes to the neck board, and a thicker gray one that goes to the socket. And on the reproduction, the colors are reversed. It's a thin gray one from underneath that goes to the neck board right there, and a thicker red one that goes to the socket. So yeah, I think we're ready to fire this up and start testing it. I've got the TPG plugged back in. I've got everything wired up. I've got my multimeter connected to the test point for the B+ voltage, because we may need to adjust the B+ for the new flyback. So I think we are ready to go. So I'll turn my multimeter on. Cross your fingers that nothing explodes. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, 111. It should be 110. And let's turn it down ever so slightly. How's that? 110 looks good. Okay, we'll turn on the TPG. We've got no image, and it's too bright in here to tell if we have net glow. I've got brightness up all the way. Let me turn off the lights and see if we've got net glow.
Well, that didn't work. So obviously I didn't get any net glow. This reproduction flyback, this sample flyback doesn't seem to be working right. And rather than me just standing around like an idiot looking at my feet or looking at, you know, some broken stuff while explaining what was going on, I figured do a little gameplay video and, you know, kind of do a bit of a voiceover to explain what went wrong, right? So this is Fester's Quest. This is the newest game I added to my PlayChoice 10 collection, my Nintendo PlayChoice 10. And I've never really spent a ton of time with this. I played it a little bit on the NES back in the day, but been looking for this for a while. I think eventually, you know, maybe I'll try to get a complete PlayChoice 10 collection. So let's try to figure out how to play this game a bit. It kind of reminds me of, you know, the sort of dismounted parts of the NES game Blaster Master, which makes sense because they were made by the same developer, Sunsoft. Anyway, so the flyback. Well, you know, as you saw, I was getting, you know, decent B+ voltage, but no raster, nothing coming up on the screen. No, you know, net glow that I could see at all. And I started checking other voltages. The GK voltage was only about 78 volts when it should have been about, you know, twice that, maybe a little bit less than twice of that. But the G2 voltage was only 1.5 volts, and that should be, you know, over 500 volts, like 530 volts. So, yeah, I reached out to Peter. I said, hey, you know, I don't know, maybe this is a dud or something. You know, he's like, yeah, if, you know, confirm that it's all, you know, installed properly and whatnot. Maybe it's just a bad sample. So I went and I pulled that sample out. I reinstalled the original flyback, and the good news is everything was working, because I was worried there for a little bit. You know, I was turning it on and off and whatever, and again, you know, when I had the reproduction sample in, and I just wasn't getting, you know, anything. And eventually I even saw an arc from the around the socket of the neck board. Now, it wasn't that that wasn't a spark inside of the tube, which would have been really bad news. It was, I don't know, like an arc on the neck socket. So took it out, removed that reproduction flyback, installed the original, and it's working. And in fact, that's what you're seeing. You know, that monitor is what you're seeing right now as I'm playing Fester's Quest here. This is a really weird game. So like, you have one life, and you really just have 2 hits. And eventually, I think you can earn more health. But here I am in these catacombs in the swamp, you know, trying to defeat these, you know, mutating, you know, reproducing slimes, right? This is a kind of a grindy game sometimes, and I'm just sort of here kind of, you know, trying to get money and upgrades to my weapons, whatever. I don't really understand what I'm doing. I should probably read the manual, watch some playthroughs at some point. So Yeah, I've already been hit once. If I get hit again, I'll die. And again, you've only got one life. You can continue as many times as you want. I think you retain your money and points and upgrades and stuff, but you start all the way back at the beginning of the game. So anyway, back to the flyback. So yeah, I put the original flyback in. It's working fine. Everything's good. The cabinet, the game is all put back together. And again, that original flyback on that monitor is what you're seeing right now with me playing Fester's Quest. So talk to Peter. You know, I think he was a little bit disappointed. He's going to order another sample, and hopefully that one pans out. And this is why we're doing this testing, right? You don't want them, you know, you don't want to just take what the factory gives you, which could be, you know, not great stuff, and then send it to customers. So that's why we do this testing, so that we get all the kinks out eventually, and then, you know, get some really, really good quality flybacks out to the public. However, you know, the testing that I did for the original, for this original XM 2001N flyback will be very helpful to Peter. You can probably give that to the factory so that they can do their own testing to compare it. And also for the Geo 7 FBO, Peter was doing the similar testing on his you know, monitor. He's got an FBO, but he doesn't have a working original flyback. So he's got the sample, and I guess it's working. And so, you know, me giving him this data for the, you know, my original working 13, you know, flyback from 13-inch Geo 7 FBO, you know, I think confirms that, you know, that's looking like it is working pretty well. So, you know, he might end up sending me that sample so that I can check it in my, you know, monitor too. But, you know, at this point, all signs look positive for that Geo 7 FBO, which I think a lot of people, probably more people, are waiting for that than for this Sharp flyback. So this Sharp flyback for the XM 2001N is also obviously used for the Red Tent monitor, which is the XM 1801N. That's actually what I'm running in my Donkey Kong Jr. Cocktail. You know, smaller 18-inch monitor. There I go. I died, and now I have to continue, you know, back at the beginning of the game, but I do have my weapon upgrades and all that kind of stuff. So, so yeah, I think there's lots of people waiting for Geo 7 FBO flybacks. People will try to use the flyback that's designed for the Geo 7 CBO, the 19-inch, but I don't think it's right. You have to like make, I think, I don't know, modifications to the board. You got to put different, whatever, capacitors or something. I don't know. I've never tried to do that. I've got, I think, 2 working Geo 7 FBOs. The one I pulled for this testing came from my Dig Dug cocktail that I've been converted to Do Run Run. And I also have a working Geo 7 FBO in my Missile Command project. So that monitor I know is kind of working, like I can get a white screen. I haven't rebuilt it or anything, but I had done a cap kit and got everything good to go with the Do Run Run FBO. And yeah, I think there's lots of Geo 7 FBOs out there, very popular, very common 13-inch monitor, and hopefully Peter will be able to, you know, finalize this sample, do any final testing, and then oh, Pugsley gives you TNT. Shout out to Todd Tuckey to get those FBO Geo 7 FBO flybacks out there. And hopefully, again, you know, we'll be able to go back. Peter will be able to go back to the factory and you know, figure out what's going on with the Sharp monitor flyback. I think there's probably more people out there waiting for them for their red tents than for this, you know, the 20-inch larger monitor. But anyway, really happy to help out Peter. Again, he is a saint for doing this, investing all this time and money and effort and aggravation into giving us, you know, the reproduction parts that we need to keep these games working, keep these monitors alive and kicking. So, and I also really appreciate the folks who sent me that you know, thermal imaging camera. Really appreciate it. That came in really handy. I'm looking forward to also using it in the future, doing board repairs and that sort of thing. So I'll put a link down in the video description if you're interested in grabbing one of those for yourself. I think they're actually on sale right now the last time I checked on Amazon, but yeah, and if I get like a discount code or something like that, I'll put that down in the video description as well. So I think what I might do at this point is sort of jump ahead in the gameplay, because I keep dying in these catacombs here. We'll jump ahead a little bit, you know, starting all over again, whatever. I got the farthest, and like I said, I really have not spent much time with Fester's Quest, which is obviously based on the Addams Family. You know, with there's the new Wednesday TV show that's really popular, so Addams Family is back. And, you know, Liam and Sam from Retrobotics recently got a Grail pin for them, which was the Addams family, which was great. I always kind of preferred the Munsters myself, but hey, you know, I don't mind the Addams family. And Fester's kind of the... Oh, I'm about to... Yeah. So we'll jump ahead a little bit and sort of show you how far I was able to get. Still not very far. Still not very far, but I got to, you know, I got out of these catacombs and to a different part, unlocked a different part of the maze, so I'm going to have to spend some more time with Fester's Quest. You know, maybe we'll do some kind of playthrough. I'll practice. We'll do maybe, you know, I don't know if I'll be able to complete it, but a longer playthrough for a Halloween special. But, yeah, and then, yeah, that's what happens there. So, you know, do all the things YouTube wants you to do. Like, share, comment, subscribe. You know, check out the merchandise shop. We got some cool t-shirts. I actually just bought a new mouse pad for myself with some Overtime Arcade parody marquee logos. If you want to really want to support the channel, click on that join button, learn more about what it means to become an Overtime Arcade channel member. $1.99 a month, you get access to some awesome perks. Monthly members only live stream, early access to all new videos, our private members only Discord, which is a ton of fun. If you're not in that Discord, you are missing out. We got about 100 members so far. It is really, really awesome. A great community that you want to be a part of. So anyway, I think I'll wrap it up here. As always, thanks for watching Overtime Arcade. I'm Charlie, and I'll see you next time.
Overtime!